Hello and welcome to Startup Teardowns Marketing Edition. In today's episode, we're looking into a B2C e-commerce food recipe box startup. And we're assessing the visual brand imagery, the e-commerce conversion journey, and how they can optimize their revenue journey through social proof. The startup that we're going to be tearing down today is a UK-based startup called Cookaway. We're not going to be tearing down the website, so yeah, Tom, don't get too overexcited about what's wrong with the homepage and landing page. There's a few things that spring to mind quite quickly for me, but I think the purpose of this is just to talk you through a bit about what the business does. Tom, can you guess just from the landing page what they do?
This is the first time I've seen it, so this is going to be a fun one. Yeah, I would imagine it's some sort of meal delivery kit.
So this is exactly that. It's a recipe food box for people who are sort of interested, inquisitive, and as they say here, curious cooks that want to try and cook different types of cuisine, and they basically send you the recipe and the exact ingredients that you need to make that recipe. Interestingly, their sort of model is that they are not a sort of recurring, repeatable sort of recipe box that you get sent every week as some alternative versions of this. They're actually sort of more one-off, either gifts that you send to people who you know are cooks, or they're one-off recipe boxes that you send yourself because you feel like having a date night, or it's a special occasion, or Valentine's Day is coming up, and so you come onto the site and you buy the sort of menu and box that you have a preference for. Actually, a core part of these guys' marketing is obviously their further down the funnel marketing. How do they get people who are already in their customer base to keep coming back and purchasing more and more recipe boxes? That's kind of an interesting, slightly different model that they've built around the recipe box model. The actual asset that we're going to be tearing down today is this advert, and then the flow and the customer journey that follows this onto their purchase page, and then all the way through to the point where you actually put in your payment details and buy the box.
Yeah, it's engaging. I think the image is really strong, and obviously having seen the website, they align to their brand of really, kind of globally inspired food, I would say. I've got that immediately in a visual way, obviously overlaid with that kind of what looks like 4.5 star kind of rating there. I think the image overlay is a little bit harder to read in the middle. To be honest, I defaulted to then reading the subscription, and it caught my eye, and then I could sort of turn dinner into an experience with authentic global meal boxes. So what's coming to me out of that is the authentic global as the value proposition, incentivizing me to click through. I think maybe I would put that like at the bottom, so rather than like shop now, you could put something like no subscription, 10% off. Yeah, I can see maybe the angle that they have here is pushing back against the subscription box competitors. So in some ways it's a anti-value proposition in that respect.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting actually, that they went straight for the kind of anti-competitor as the kind of main value proposition here, which can do in marketing it, and it's an interesting way to kind of stand out compared to what might be a busy sort of market of alternatives, and it's just kind of like we're different, right? But in some ways it's not kind of really going into the core value proposition of what their offering is. It's just that it's different from competitors. So I'm not sure like I love that as the kind of like first impression, but maybe they've learned over time that actually this is what people value, is the fact that they can just buy one box instead of having to get this sort of monthly subscription that perhaps people are getting sick of now because they've got all these bills coming out all the time at their bank. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, being a subscriber to a lot of these boxes myself, I can see that as an anti-value proposition where I don't want to get hooked on another subscription on this basis. But I think I would still frame it on more of like the positive angle. So it's like one-off box for a special occasion or something like that. It's like what's the benefits of that service versus the no subscription angle.
I totally agreed with your first point around that being very difficult to read. It's sort of hidden in amongst all of the food, and it's quite small and doesn't draw your eye in. Actually, on the ad variations that they've got, this pink background with the white text, stands out much more. For me, this is like far more exciting sort of as an asset. You draw your eye and you understand what it's about. It's about this feast. You can get excited about that. And then you go to the text to actually understand the kind of the core value proposition that they've got. So for me, I think I slightly prefer this asset over the first one.
But yeah, I completely agree in terms of asset creation and design here. Much more, kind of punchy with a core statement.
But yeah, there's just a little disjoint here. Like, it'd be nice to have sort of like a colourful cook-away logo to give me this kind of brand recognition a little bit more as well within this asset. But yeah, obviously what this asset and this ad is doing is like specifically targeting based on sort of Mexican food in particular. Obviously they've got a whole array of different cuisines. Then as you click through onto shop now and go to the next step in the customer journey, I'm happy to announce that the customer journey continues in this congruent way where we continue to get fed the sort of Mexican cook-away offering. It does add another step to the customer journey. So of course the customer now has to make another decision of like, oh, which one of these looks the best, which could cause a little bit of drop off because you might actually want to click into a few of these, look around, and then that person might abandon the cart, which is always a worry when you're starting to give customers options in the customer journey. But for me, I actually like the fact personally in this customer journey that we've got a few options and we can sort of take that decision as to what we think looks really tasty and what's kind of the next step that we want to take.
Yeah. I think, there's probably some improvements just on the e-commerce side of that, to make them bigger, more easy scrollable images. This layout feels a bit disjointed, but yeah, in principle, I'm on board. There's a value proposition that there is choice. I think that's obviously what they're trying to pitch here as a business. So they've got you onto their website and now they're showing you their products and the full range here. It's not like a simple widget that you just want to buy. It's like that they have options and there's a meal kit. So I'm open to them showing me more, but I think they could do it better.
Yeah. And it is a relatively simple landing page, which normally is a good sign as well. It's got some nice social proof at the bottom. Perhaps the gift card is a little bit distracting. I don't think that's necessarily needed here. So perhaps that's a little bit of a distraction. But Tom, yeah, I do very much agree with you. I think the design of this page leaves a lot to be desired because there's a lot of like blank space, like, what this doing here. I think the design elements could be elevated a little bit here to give me a bit more trust in the brand. And
yeah, I'd almost want to see some real life images, even if they're slightly stocky, of people cooking the food, like enjoying the food in the kitchen, like people engaging with the brand a little bit if possible. I think focusing on the food is great and I understand why they would do that, but yeah, as you say, I think they're missing a bit of social proof. It feels a bit flat because it's just the food, right? Yeah, can we get like actual reviews of people, maybe actual people's customer like UGC content coming in here? Yeah, even just like more imagery with people cooking that they've captured, I think would really strengthen the landing page.
yeah, I absolutely agree because we've had the social proof of like as seen in some of these newspapers, which is great. But yeah, I would really want to see, other people cooking. I don't want to understand what the actual box looks like, maybe even the unpacking. But all in all, I think this sort of payment page is actually really strong because again, it's got all of this best practice over conversion. It gives me a lot of detail and it answers a lot of questions that I would have coming to this page. I think that this page is actually really strong and it gives me all of the kind of information that I want to see, and it's stronger than that sort of landing page that we went on.